What's going on, everybody? Welcome to After Prison Show, and in this video, I'm going to be telling you a prison story. The story is going to be called The Prison Preacher Man, but this is not just going to involve one prison preacher man, it's going to involve two. Now, both of these guys I'm going to be telling you about, I met at two completely separate times during the course of my bad, troubled youth. I met one of these guys during the very beginning when I first began to serve time, and I met the other one during the very end. And it's kind of ironic to think about, actually. I met one at the very beginning, right when I first began getting in trouble, first began serving time, and I would meet the other dude right at the very end of the time, right before I would be released from the 7 years that I had served, that I came home from, and since have gotten my life together. And my God, it only took me 30-something years to do so, but you know what? I finally did get my life together. Now, you would think that I would tell this story in order, however, I'm not going to do so. I'm going to talk about the guy that I met at the very end first, and I'm going to talk about the other guy last. But it's with all of that being mentioned, what do you say we go ahead and dive head first into these two completely different preacher man prison stories. And now first, before we even get into these stories, and I probably should have said this before that whole dive part, but I didn't, I forgot about it. But I do need to address this first and foremost. You know, I don't want to give prison religion a bad name at all. And I don't want you to get the wrong idea about this. And these two entirely different preacher mans, both of these dudes were absolutely crazy in their own regards. However, even with that being said, don't let these two stories give you the wrong impression about religion in prison. Because religion in prison is something that is very, very serious, no matter what your religious belief is. And you're going to meet guys while locked up who are Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Asa True. There are a lot of different religions that guys believe in wholeheartedly and are also willing to fight over if you disrespect them or their religion in any way, shape, or form. And you know, religion already gets a little bit of a bad name if you think about it while locked up. You'll oftentimes hear people refer to people as either jailhouse Christians, Bible thumpers, or even faking it till you make it. But religion falls heavily into the hope category. And hope is something that you absolutely have to have when serving time. And a lot of times, guys have virtually no hope at all. They might not have any kind of support from the free world, no kind of family, friends, girlfriends, significant others, anyone that they're in contact with, and they can oftentimes feel like they are absolutely cast away, completely alone. And in cases just like that, guys will oftentimes turn to religion because they've got nothing else at all. Religion, again, heavily falls into that hope category. Because for some, religion may be the only hope that they have. And it's because of things just like that that there are a lot of guys who take religion very, very seriously while they are serving time. Some may even turn to religion in an effort to try to better themselves, whether it's because of an addiction. They're trying to overcome an addiction, believing that the Lord or whoever they believe in could be the only thing left that could help them overcome that. Others may want to better themselves, maybe through fitness or eating better or religious beliefs, believing that these are the keys that they will need to live a more prosperous and honest life. But just as there's a lot of guys who are very, very serious about religion, there's also a handful of others who aren't so serious about it and may be using religion for some sort of an ulterior motive. And both of these stories that I'm getting ready to share with you about these two completely separate prison preacher mans are a perfect example of just that. So, let me go ahead and introduce you to prison preacher man numero uno, number one. I met this guy during the end of my 7-year prison sentence, right before I was getting ready to be released. I met this guy probably when I had about 2.5 years left to serve. As a matter of fact, if I can remember correctly, I think I did my last 2.5 years completely with this guy, maybe give or take a couple of months or so. But when I first met this dude, this guy came up to me. He was a very Christian-oriented type of an individual. I thought pretty highly of this guy just based upon that alone. Wow, look at this guy. This guy reads the Bible compulsively. He's going around trying to give people a good word, a good peace, maybe some encouragement, maybe some motivation. And not only that, this guy was also a chaplain's assistant. That was his actual prison job. And if I can remember correctly, I think this was a pretty high-paying job. Maybe something like 45 cents an hour, which is pretty high on the prison pay scale in terms of what kind of a prison job one could actually have. But with the fact that when I first met prison preacher man number one, and I thought pretty highly of this dude, it would strike me kind of peculiar to notice that there were other individuals who were in the housing unit and across the prison who paid this guy absolutely no mind at all and did not take this guy very serious, nor did it look like they respected this dude very much at all. How are you doing? I hope you're having a wonderful day here in this beautiful beautiful prison. If I could just steal 2 minutes of your time to give you a good piece from the Bible. Man, if you don't get away from me with that Bible stuff, man, the Young and the Restless on right now, man, ain't nobody got time for that. Again, I can't emphasize enough how peculiar all of this was to me. It was strange, you know. In most cases, you got people who are God-fearing and very religious in prison, and they're oftentimes respected or at least left alone. And anytime they're trying to come over and give you some encouragement, some motivation, whatever it is that they're trying to give to you, a lot of guys will respect that, give them some of their time, and listen to what they have to say. But in most cases, when I would see this guy going around trying to spread the word, ain't nobody really had time for that at all. And you know, it wouldn't be but a short time later where I would begin putting the pieces to the puzzle together for myself and understanding a lot more why this guy wasn't really respected all that much. And I guess the very first sign or clue that I got for myself about all of this was when this guy approached me and asked if I had any interest in trying to get on common fare. Now, for those of you who don't know what common fare is, this is a special meal plan in the prison, and this is also something that is not easily gotten. Guys who are on common fare are oftentimes on this meal plan because of their religious beliefs, whether they're Muslim, whether they're Jewish, or whether they're any other type of religious belief that would have them having to eat certain types of food. And best believe when I tell you that the common fare type of food is going to be the freshest, the bestest of any bestest. I'm pretty sure that's not a word. It's going to be the best of any type of prison food that you can get. When they call common fare chow right now, common fare. Common fare usually eats first before anybody else. So that's another added plus to go ahead and throw on. But this special meal plan is, again, not something that's easy to get on. And one of the requirements for getting on this meal plan at this particular prison, I'm not sure how this is at other prisons, maybe it's easier at other places, but at this particular prison, one of the main requirements was that you had to attend the church of whatever your religious belief was for 6 months. And every time that you went to church throughout those 6 months while trying to get this common fare, you had to sign a piece of paper saying that you had attended church. Then after that 6 months, you'll put in your request. You'll say, hey, I've attended church for 6 months. I've got 6 months of signatures documented. Could I please be placed on common fare, which feeds you the bestest and the freshest of the prison food, and you also eat that early? Could I get that, please? So yeah, common fare was not something that was easy to get at all. But here was this first prison preacher man who was approaching me asking if I had any interest in trying to get on common fare. And as he's asking me about this, I'm really not knowing where this guy is going with this conversation. But he soon follows up by saying, hey, look, if you do got some interest, if you're trying to get on that common fare, I'm a chaplain's assistant. I can help you. You just give me $20 in commissary, and I'm gonna get you 6 months of signatures proving that you was in church. Dude, you supposed to be a man of God. You telling me that for $20 in commissary, you won't get me 6 months worth of signatures. And the way that you're able to do this is because your prison job is you're a chaplain's assistant making 45 cents an hour. And you're using your position in the prison church as some sort of a prison hustle? You ain't right for that at all. You going to hell. I really don't want that kind of bad karma or juju. I don't need it, man. That's gotta be like a bad omen or something. Man, what you doing? So with the fact that this guy would use his position being a chaplain's assistant to help guys as a prison hustle get on common fare for $20. $20 you can eat the freshest and the bestest of the prison food on common fare. With the fact that he was doing this, there were quite a few guys who were taking him up on this offer. I mean, this dude was making a killing getting dudes put on common fare. And you might be listening to this thinking, you know, that's really not that bad, Joe. I mean, okay, he had this position in the church, you know, he was doing what he was doing. It's not that bad. Believe me, it gets better. Not only was his prison hustle to help guys get on common fare, he also had another one that was a lot more dirtbag. Now, through the prison ministry during the holiday season, the chaplain would get all of these cards that were brought into the prison, whether it was Christmas time, whether it was Thanksgiving, Mother's Day, Father's Day, whatever the holiday was, there were these cards that came in through the prison ministry, and they would then pass these cards out for free. Now, these were religious cards. There were a lot of guys who wouldn't even bother with these cards because, you know, there were some guys who just weren't religious at all, didn't want to send any kind of religious material home to their families, or just didn't have family they could send these cards home to at all. But with the fact that these were free cards, this guy would go and get his hands on these cards before they were actually to be passed out. He might get them to you like a week or two earlier, and he was taking these cards that would otherwise be free and then smuggling them back to the housing unit to then sell them for a profit for himself. And the reason guys would buy these cards from him that would otherwise be free was because they could pick and choose whichever cards that they wanted. They could get a bunch of cards for just a couple of dollars. And if they were to just wait for these cards to be passed out, they don't know what card they were going to get. You'll just end up with any old random card on your bunk. It might not be a card that's all that good, or a card that you really don't like, or maybe you don't think your family will like. This way, you could pick and choose the cards you wanted. You could get a bunch of cards for the low, and you could also get these cards early enough to send them out in time for your family or loved ones to get them for the holiday. So this guy had the common fare hustle, he had the holiday card hustle, and there was one other thing about this guy which was basically just the creme de la creme about this. And now for those of you who might remember what one of my most lucrative prison hustles was, it was selling these little 4x6 photographs of naked women. And I was actually getting these things printed from the free world and sent in on demand. I mean, I could basically call and get whatever I wanted sent in to me. I was getting like 100 of these pictures a week. These pictures were going for anywhere between $2.50 upwards of like $5. Think about that. $2.50 to $5 times 100, you're talking about $250 to $500 a week I was making in prison. I mean, that's like having just some kind of random, not so great job out here in the free world. And for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about with this prison hustle of mine, back then you were able to get these pictures sent in from a distributor. You had to order it from a distributor of naked women. There just couldn't be any kind of penetration. It couldn't be any kind of sex. But I would get these pictures of actual sex cropped, so you couldn't actually see the action. You could just see like the face and maybe the vajayjay or maybe the culo. I mean, whatever. We were able to get these damn pictures in. It was pretty damn crazy. And I was making a killing off of this. And with the fact that I was getting so many of these pictures sent in every week, these things were basically flooding the compound. Everybody and their brother wanted to get their hands on these pictures. And there were not a lot of people who actually knew that it was me who was getting these pictures in. I had a couple of runners and guys who were hustle mans for me who would sell these things themselves. They would make a little profit, give me back what I wanted, whether it was like $2.50 a picture, maybe $2. Whatever I was charging them, they could put whatever they want on top of it. And I did this to really try to keep the attention away from myself. I didn't want a lot of people knowing that it was me who was the plug getting all of these pictures. But somehow this prison preacher man #1 found out that I was the connect. Somebody must have told him. I mean, you cannot keep anything private or any type of a secret in prison. Prison is the #1 gossip headquarters. But somebody told this guy that I had these pictures. He comes up to me telling me he's been buying all sorts of these pictures. I'm already feeling like I'm going to hell for this, for contributing to the delinquency of a chaplain's assistant. And he comes up to me saying, "Joe, hey man, I heard you're the one getting all the pictures in and you're even taking special requests." No, this can't be happening. Dude, you're the chaplain's assistant. What do you mean you've been buying all sorts of these pictures? It's special requests. I don't even want to know. I don't want to know. Yo man, I got a real sweet deal for you. I'll get you on common fare for free. And I'll also get you any holiday cards you want exclusively as soon as they come into the prison. This sounds absolutely religious illegal. I don't want no parts of this. But you know, I'd be lying if I sat here and tried to tell you I wasn't a little curious to know what exactly kind of request this dude had. Hey, look, man, I don't want the common fare. I definitely don't want the cards. Again, that bad karma and juju, I want no parts of it. You can pay me like everybody else is paying me. But what are you interested in anyways? I cannot even begin to emphasize like how crazy guys would get when they could basically get on demand any kind of porn they were wanting. Porn has got to be at the absolute top of the list of things guys absolutely want to get their hands on when they're serving time. And when they start to think that they can get whatever they want, they begin to act pretty damn crazy. Can you get me some pictures where it looks like she really enjoyed it? She really enjoying it. I mean, really enjoying it. And also, could you find somewhere a culo looks like it's about the size of a Pringles can? Yeah, prison preacher man #1, he was a strange one for sure. But you know, this guy would end up getting released. And from what I've heard, I heard this maybe like 6 months ago. It's been quite a while since I've heard anything about this guy. But I did hear something about this guy finding like some super loaded cougar type chick somewhere out in like Arkansas. He moved out there and this guy's living extremely well off of his newfound sugar mama, which is probably a fantasy of a lot of guys who are serving time. Hey man, when I go home, I'm gonna find me a girl, she got to be super full up. I ain't talking about the shape of a body neither, I'm talking about the shape of a bank account. That joint got to be super nice. She can look like whatever. I'm gonna marry her, I'm gonna tell her I love her. She gonna take care of me forever. Some guys got some pretty twisted fantasies about the type of success they're looking for when they get out. But let's go ahead and move on to Prison Preacher Man number 2. And again, I told this story completely backwards. Prison Preacher Man number 1 really should have been number 2 because I met him at the end of all of the time that I would serve. And Prison Preacher Man number 2, the guy that I'm about to tell you about right now, I met this dude at the very beginning of the time that I would begin serving at the age of like 18 or 19 years old. But when I met Prison Preacher Man number 2, I was green. I was like 18, 19 years old. I was super young, super out of control, thinking I was gonna live that thug life for the rest of my life. I had no idea, no concept, no game plan, no strat, no nothing in regards to trying to get my act together. But it was when I was 18 or 19 years old, I was sitting in jail and I think I was doing something like an 11-month sentence. And this was the first what I considered long stretch of the time I would end up serving. Hey, young blood, hey, why you walking around with your pants sagging around your ankle? Hey, how much time you got, young blood? I know you ain't talking. Hey, old head, you talking to me, old head? I got me 11 months, old head. 11 months. Ain't even 365. I got me 11 months. I wear my pants out. Hey, you better get away. Joe, did you ever get attacked by an old man for sagging your... That never happened. It never happened. But it was during this 11-month sentence that I was serving. I went into this housing unit. I was new. And when you walk into a new housing unit, especially one that has like 50 to 100 people or 100 plus people, that's exactly what this type of a housing unit was. But when you walk into one of these housing units, you're going to notice immediately all of the different cliques. You're going to see dudes grouped up over here. You're going to see dudes grouped up over here. Why there's so many dudes grouped up around the shower? Wow, I did not want to see that. You're going to see guys grouped up everywhere. And in a lot of cases, these grouped up guys are going to be different gangs. And it's almost guaranteed to happen to you being the new person coming in, and you're going to get approached. Whether you're getting approached by different gangs coming up to you saying, hey, what's poppin', homeboy? What set you rep? Me. The set that I rep the push-up set. Push-up? I ain't never heard of no push-up gang. Hey, killer, what gang is the push-up gang? The push-up set. I like to max out my reps doing multiple sets. Hey, I'm taking all of your commissary. It can sometimes be rough when you're first walking into a housing unit and you're fresh meat, you're looking like as green as a fish. I don't know if there's really such a thing as a green fish, but when you're green, when you're a newbie, when you're a noob, it can oftentimes be rough. And you're definitely going to be approached, either by gangs trying to find out what your affiliation is, maybe even trying to recruit you. By any chance, would you find fellas like to join my push-up set? Hey, you want me to talk about that push-up set again? But you know, another group that could approach you when first coming into a new housing unit could be a church group, if they have a church group in that housing unit. And believe me, a lot of housing units, they got them a church group. They'll be doing prayer studies and prayer circles. Prayer call, who's coming to the prayer circle? Hey, if you ain't coming to the prayer circle, you going to hell and you get 20 years. But you could be approached by one of these church groups who ask you, hey, you got any interest in coming to church? We do Bible studies 10 times a day, and we have a prayer circle that's absolutely mandatory. You'll get beat up if you don't come in the evening time. And though it wasn't necessarily that extreme in this housing unit that I was going into at the age of 18 or 19 years old, there was a prison church group in this housing unit who did approach me. And it wasn't just anyone who approached me neither. It was actually Prison Preacher Man number 2. This guy came up to me as soon as I was putting my stuff away, and he says, hey, you got any interest in coming to our little prayer circle and to our Bible study? And me never really experiencing anything like this before, I thought, okay, sure, I'll go to this. Might be an easy way for me to try to fit in, make some friends, and not be walking around here looking like I'm a lone soldier in this housing unit full of these different cliques and groups, and most of them being gangs. Yes, absolutely. I would love to come to church. When does it start? Can it start right now? Because I don't want to be walking around here looking like I'm all alone. Now again, I cannot emphasize this enough. I had never experienced anything like this before. This was my first time ever participating in any kind of a jail church or a jail Bible study group. I had never done this before, and this was an absolutely shocking and eye-opening thing. And I want to say this real quick as well. Look, not every prison prayer circle or Bible study group is going to be like this. It must have just been my luck that this would be the one that I get to experience for the first time. And it definitely left sort of like a bad taste in my mouth. That's probably not the right way to word that at all. I began going to this prison Bible study, and the first thing that I noticed is we've got Prison Preacher Man sitting at the head of the table, and all of everyone else, including myself, were all at the table gathered around this dude. This dude wasn't so much a prison preacher man as it almost seemed like he was a cult leader. But this Bible study started out as I imagined it would. This guy sat at the head of the table, prison preacher man number 2, and he was reading from the Bible. And then he began to ask everybody, what they took and what they got from what he had just read. And as people were explaining what they got from the passage, they would also start to throw in their situation a little bit, how this affected them, what they got from it, what they're learning, what they're trying to improve in their lives. And I'm looking at this situation like, wow, this is a really good thing. Guys could actually grow from this, learn from this, and maybe even try to really improve their lives. I really thought this was a powerful and positive thing until I seen prison preacher man number 2 pull out a commissary mesh bag. Joe, could you tell me what you got from the passage that I just read? Here, Pat. Go ahead, pass that down. I got what I got from what you just read. I got what are y'all doing with that? Why are y'all passing that commissary bag around? Joe, that's the prison Bible study offering plate. People make donations to me for holding these prayer circles and these Bible studies. If you would like to make a contribution at all, you just get some commissary and put it inside the bag yourself. It's a little thank you for the hard work that I put into this. Dude, you got you a mean hustle in here. They paying you to hold these little Bible? Dude, you getting dude, there's like $50 in this bag, right? Yeah, this prison preacher man number 2 actually had him a prison Bible study offering plate, which was actually his commissary bag that he would pass out either every day or every other day or whenever his locker would get empty. And guys were actually, this was even crazier than the fact that this guy was passing around his commissary bag, but guys were actually putting commissary items inside of this bag. You ain't paying the church. You paying this dude to, can I hold the next Bible? I got nothing in my locker. And I don't know. Maybe I'm blowing this all out of proportion. Maybe this type of stuff really does happen. I just can't understand why guys were actually putting their commissary items inside of this dude's commissary bag who was holding this Bible study. And it was almost like they were believing that if they gave this dude their commissary items, that things might work out better for them. And it also gets a lot better. Not only would this guy pass around his commissary bag from day to day or every other day or whenever his locker was empty for $5. $5 whole jail dollars. $5 in jail is a lot of money. But for $5, this dude would offer you a personalized prayer session, which was most popular before guys had to go to court the very next day. Joe, you've got court tomorrow. Would you like a little personalized prayer session? Dude, I'm not paying you no $5 for you to pray for me. What kind of a hustle you got? You're going to hell. And just as crazy as him passing around his commissary bag and guys were actually putting items in this bag, there were guys who were paying this dude $5 for that personalized one-on-one prayer session. And just prison preacher man number 2, them, God, and that $5 in commissary. Hey, bring me 5 icy white honey buns. Ooh, I got me a little craving for some sweets. We're gonna make sure things work out real good for you tomorrow. Just as good as one of them icy white honey buns. I'm gonna need 5 of those. There were just as many guys paying this dude for that one-on-one personalized prayer session like the day before they had to go to court. And this guy wasn't no dummy, okay? He wasn't no dummy at all. He would tell these guys, look, I can offer you a personalized prayer session the day before you go to court, just you, me, God, and them 5 icy white honey buns. But I can't make you no guarantees things are gonna work out. But even though I can't make you no guarantees, I can let you know things will be a lot better for you. You're going to stand a much better chance. Whatever happens to you tomorrow, you stand a much better chance if you and me, we have that personalized prayer session. Ooh, my stomach is growling. Woo! Can you hurry up and get those? I'm hungry. No guarantees things would work out, but you're going to stand a much better chance if you pay this prison preacher man number 2 $5 for that little prayer. And I wish I could tell you there's a happy ending to prison preacher man number 2, but unfortunately there's not. In fact, there's 2 things that I'm going to include in conclusion to his story. The first, of course, being that with the fact that this guy was basically scamming dudes out of $5 to pray for them the day before he went to court, ultimately something was going to end up happening to this dude, which it absolutely did. This one guy came back from court after spending that $5, ended up getting him something like 3 years. It wasn't an astronomical amount of time, but you're talking about a guy who probably had served no time prior to this. Because no cold hard convict is ever going to believe that you're going to be able to pay $5 and things going to work out for you in court. Because you're going to walk into that courtroom with you, your lawyer, and God, and things is just going to work out. No convict is ever going for this. But this guy must have been just as green as my 18 or 19-year-old self. Came back after spending that $5, got that 3 years that must have felt like 3 life sentences. And this guy walked right from the Sally Port into the housing unit, looked like his eyes were glassed over. I mean, this guy looked like his soul was gone from his body. Did not say one single word at all. Walked right into Prison Preacher Man number 2 cell and beat the holy out of this guy. And you know, I mentioned all of this with Prison Preacher Man number 1, all that bad karma and bad juju that I wasn't trying to get no parts of. I'm kind of feeling like Prison Preacher Man number 2 had a whole heck of a lot of that being expounded upon him when this guy came back with that 3-year sentence. They ended up taking Prison Preacher Man number 2 out of the housing unit and took the guy who had gotten sentenced to 3 years, who had just beat the holy hell out of this guy. They took him out of the housing unit as well. I never saw or heard anything about Prison Preacher Man number 2 until I got released, and this is kind of absolutely ironic. But just a couple of weeks ago, I took you guys while we were looking for like a honeymoon suite at this rundown ass hotel. Well, it was at this hotel where I actually used to live for a couple of months during my life. I was not doing drugs, even though this is like a crack shack hotel. I just couldn't afford to go anywhere else. This place was like $217 a week, and this was all I could afford. It was while I was living at this hotel that I was actually coming back to the hotel one day after getting off of work, and it was sometime in the evening or the late afternoon, and I see this guy walking out of this hotel room, smoke coming out of this room, and this dude's jaw being all the way over here in left field. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody coming off of a crack binge, but that's pretty much verbatim what they look like. And lo and behold, you'll never believe who it was. Yes, it absolutely was Prison Preacher Man number 2. I got out of the car and I walked up to this dude. I couldn't even believe I was seeing this dude. I could absolutely believe that I was seeing him coming out of a hotel room with billowing smoke following him and his jaw all the way on the next block somewhere. But I walked right up to this guy. I said, Prison Preacher Man number 2. Man, it's been a long time. What are you doing out here? You doing okay? And this guy had absolutely no idea who I was. And I just walked away. Hey, look, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did so, please leave a like and a comment letting me know exactly what you thought about all of this craziness. As always, until next time, enjoy life, the free world. Never take a moment for granted, and make the most of every day. Peace!